You call yourself pro-life. Where in the Constitution does it say, for example, that you can make laws restricting a woman's right to choose? If you want to be a constitutionalist, shouldn't the government stay totally out of the abortion
Well, I think
issue?
the federal government should.
What about the state government?
What?
What about states?
It's up to the state government, because the state governments, we don't dictate to the states. Protection of life is one of the important issues of government. If you can't protect life, how can you protect liberty?
But most libertarians, and I know you lean libertarian, would say the government, women should have a right to choose. The government, even state government, should say out of it, you should not restrict a person's right to make that choice. That's what most libertarians would say.
No, but all libertarians believe that you should never use a force to bring about changes, and they reject an act of aggression. A fetus is alive, it's human, and has legal rights. If you kill it, Ron, you have committed an act of aggression.
I do think about the other problems. I think about our problems in foreign policy, about the issue of war, the issue of spending, and the financial crisis. But I believe we eventually have to deal with the issue of life. I am a strong proponent of liberty, and I'm a strong proponent of privacy. Those who endorse the issue of having abortion argue it from the case of privacy. I think privacy is a red herring. It has nothing to do with privacy. The only issue that counts is whether or not the fetus is legal and human and deserves respect and deserves protection of the law. I know as a physician that I have that legal responsibility, and that is if I do injury to the fetus, if I give the wrong medication and do harm, or if I would inadvertently cause an abortion, or if one of you run into a car and a woman is pregnant and loses her child, you have legal liability. So there is a legal entity there. It's not like they can pass it off as a blob and it's irrelevant. Bernard Nathanson is a friend of mine, and many of you in here probably know the name, but he participated in over 65,000 abortions. He ran an abortion clinic in the 60s. He had a lot to do with getting the law changed. He defied the law. And you know when he changed his mind and became strongly pro-life? It's when the ultrasound came out. So there he was, getting ready to do these abortions and wanted to check on pregnancy, and he'd see a small fetus and see the heart beating. He no longer could do abortions. In the late 50s and early 60s, the issue never came up. I never heard the word abortion. But by the time I got into my OBGYN residency in the mid-60s and late 60s, there were abortions being done at the University of Pittsburgh illegally. And I had not thought much about it. I mean, it was natural that we didn't talk about it because nobody was doing it. It wasn't a major issue. I was worrying about passing my courses rather than thinking about this profound issue. But one day I walked into an operating room to just be an observant, which we would do generally as a medical resident. And I walked in and they were performing this hysterotomy, which was a cesarean section. And they lifted out a fetus that weighed approximately 2 pounds, and it was breathing and crying. And it was put in a bucket and sat in a corner of the room, and everybody in the room just pretended they didn't hear it. And the baby died. And I walked out of that room a different person. I thought, this is not just a simple little issue. This is a major issue. And, of course, then that started me into thinking of the very details, medical and legal and all the ramifications. Because the 60s were a tough period of time. I did serve 5 years in the military. The Vietnam War was going on. There was moral changes occurring at that time. And the law was being flaunted on abortion. And I often thought that the morality came before the change in the law. We condemn, of course, Roe versus Wade, and we should get rid of Roe versus Wade. But Roe versus Wade is a reflection of the moral climate of the country because the law was being defied, and then the law was changed. The law sort of caught up with the culture.